Portland Regionals 2024. Now, this was a tournament I knew I was attending, and a tournament I wanted to go to. Every single time you play in the first regional of a new format, it really is anyone's game. Everyone's learning the new format. Everyone's learning the new guys, the new moves, the new mons, whatever it is, right? We're all learning together. And what it does is it creates this really insane format. So naturally, I wanted to throw my hat into the ring. I knew I had to go. So I booked the tickets way in advance. I was ready to go. I was excited. But the week before the tournament, everything came crashing down. So what happened is before this tournament, Rogov had achieved multiple victories in a row with a third, second finish. So for me, it seemed crazy not to work with Rogov. My own mother told me, if you don't use Rogov's team, I just don't know how you're going to do well. So for me, it was a no-brainer. I had to use Rogov's team. And very early on, Rogov and I came up with an idea, and we fell in love with a team that was honestly very similar to Dart's team. So for those who don't know, Dart's won an insanely huge tournament. They were a senior player, and they won this huge tournament, an online tour, with a team consisting of Entei, Ogrepon Wellspring, Raging Bolt, Chien-Pao, Landorus, and Fluttermane. Very quickly on, we fell in love. We loved a lot of the ideas. I think Scarflando was a ton of fun. I thought Chien-Pao was easily one of the best Pokemon in the game. Raging Bolt was just straight up fun to use, which is always a good feeling when you're playing a game of Pokemon. Ogrepon Wellspring was broken, Entei was good, and Fluttermane was boring, so we decided to make some changes. We tried King Gambit for a while and felt pretty decent. We tried our own Fluttermane, but nothing felt good. We tried Glimmora as well. I want to make it clear we were trying Glimmora in the slot as well. We thought Glimmora was cool, but nothing worked, and everything was just kind of falling apart. And I was extremely stressed. And prior to the event, I actually decided I didn't want to go anymore. And I just couldn't feel confident in my team, and I was just so burnt out because for the whole beginning half of the season so far, I've had really lackluster finishes. I started out with a nice, juicy X4, no CP at Peoria, Illinois, followed by a nice, crispy 5-4, but with CP at Vancouver, and then I got a 6-3 finish at the most recent San Antonio regional. So at this point, I had been feeling really down. I really was not sitting at a lot of points. I had also won a PC, I guess. I did win a PC. That was cool. But I was just feeling really unconfident, and I just wasn't confident in the teams we had. So I was constantly stressed about the tournament. I decided I didn't want to go. So I looked up the rules on cancellation, but unfortunately, I decided I wanted to cancel my flight the night before the regional. So I could not get my money back, so I was really doomed. And there was only one person to look to, honestly. The day before the tournament, I said, "Hey, Alex, buddy, we're friends, right? Would you be okay if I use this team?" And thankfully, he let me in because this team was exactly what I was looking for. So what you'll notice right away is that this team has 4 of the same Pokemon, sometimes 5. I would say I practice more with King Gambit, but it has 4 of the same Pokemon as the team I'm using. The only difference is being Fluttermane and Dragonite instead of King Gambit and Lando. And obviously Dragonite changes the game up immensely. I have to say, Dragonite changes up how you approach the game completely differently because you have this super aggressive mode. And I kind of felt like Alex's team was a decent call going into the tournament, but I couldn't be sure, and I just was like, well, it's just a good team. It has good Pokemon. It has Raging Bolt, who I was just in love with. I was just having so much fun with Raging Bolt as a Pokemon. I think he's so fun. Thunderclap is so sick. I just keep talking about how fun he is because I actually had fun playing the game, which is a pretty rare occurrence, I feel like. But I was having so much fun with Raging Bolt. So I was like, man, I really want to just show up with Raging Bolt. I knew I wanted to use Raging Bolt. I knew I wanted to use Ogrepon. And so from there, it just kind of fell into place, and Alex's team had a lot of the similar vibes I was looking for. What really sold it for me, I got one little anecdote before we go into the team breakdown here, is that I was talking to Rajan. He was an amazing friend of mine. Love Rajan. And Rajan was watching me ladder one night in Discord, and Rajan was saying, "Wow, your team looks like it sucks." Rajan is not known for his tact. But Raj was like, "Wow, your team really sucks. It looks like your turn ones are horrible, and you always have to rely on getting leads right or getting a big lead like early on. Like, I just don't know how your team creates momentum." I was like, "Well, Rajan, you're not wrong. You're not wrong." And so with that mentality, I kind of just felt like that's how I had to approach playing Alex's team as well. Because, again, he mentioned this while I was playing the Landorus version. But once I started using the Dragonite version, it was very similar. Like, I think, to be honest with you, if you ran over the Portland regionals again, and like we're in a simulation and you put all the players in once again, I don't think I would top cut that tournament again. I think everything went my way in terms of reads, in terms of confidence, in terms of drinking enough water and eating enough snacks. The world lined up for me in this perfect like vision for me to top cut that regional. I was making every single read, every single turn correctly, and I was just playing on a level that was just above what I had been playing. Again, I was commonly for the last 3 tournaments, my best tournament was a 6-3, so I expected kind of a 6-3, 5-4 finish was about my skill level, and that didn't happen. I went 8-1 in day 1, and then in day 2, I lost twice in the final 2 rounds after I was already guaranteed cut. I kind of threw, and then I was already in cut, so ultimately, though, I still had an X3 finish, which, I mean, 6-3 to 12-3 is, or 11-3 is quite the glow up, so I just was playing on a level that I don't know. I don't know how I did it. I genuinely can't explain. I think I just drank a lot of water. You guys got to drink water at these tournaments. It's a huge deal. It helped me out a ton. But yeah, so let's talk about the team. I guess we'll go on the team breakdown now. Team breakdown. So first up, we got to talk about the King Dragonite. I want to make a special mention that I actually caught this Dragonite legitimately, a shiny Dragonite during the Dragonite event, and it was Dragonite the Grumpy, or Dragon, whatever the baby one is, Dratini the Grumpy. And I gotta say, I knew it was destiny when I caught the Dragonite that was Grumpy, because I knew I was gonna be cooking with this Dragonite. But Dragonite, this Pokemon was so broken. Obviously, this is like a month later, so like the meta has completely changed. Dragonite did just get top 4 again. I just want to make that known. But Dragonite was awesome. It was the MVP of the team. Farigiraf was not nearly as popular as it is now, and Dragonite was able to just completely carry me in almost every game that I brought it. I think one of the big things that I was doing is, before the tournament, I didn't have much, like, I never played many games with the team. I probably played about 10 practice games, but a lot of the stuff that I learned from the other team carried over exactly to this team. It was all about making reads and jockeying for position, like Rajan had said. So Dragonite, to me, before the tournament, I actually talked to, I believe it was Jody, I think it was Audie actually, who was telling me that game 1, they were never going to bring Dragonite, and then game 2, they were going to always bring him, just as this huge mix-up, right? Because they just have to respect the hell out of Dragonite. So not bringing Dragonite was really cool, because then they're like, oh, like, they didn't even bring him, and they'll let their guard down a little bit. Because I think Dragonite is just a huge, like, whenever he hits the field, all eyes are on him. He's a fucking superstar. And you have to respect what he's going to do, because he has priority extreme speed. He just does so much damage. And outrage. On occasion, you got to click an outrage here or there. But so Dragonite was just kind of that really polarizing Pokemon in Team Preview. And I found a lot of the time I didn't bring him a lot in games 1 or 2, but every time I brought him, he was just the MVP. He was so tactful in how much damage he could do. And I think that was a huge part of my success, was just like this silly little idea of not bringing Dragonite in a game where they expect me to, and then just whipping him out at a future point. And I think it just paid dividends for me throughout the tournament. Just Dragonite was my secret weapon, and whenever I brought him, I knew I was going to win the game. Now at this time, Chien-Pao was incredibly broken. I think it was probably one of the best Pokemon in the game. There was not a lot of respect for this guy, and this guy went crazy. He was a nuts Pokemon. Basically, I brought Chien-Pao every game. I don't know if I brought him every game, but it felt like I did. Terra Ghost was awesome because Terra Stellar sucks. I just think being able to dodge Fake Out is so huge. And Chien-Pao was easily my most used Pokemon, and the Pokemon that just seriously was just MVP the entire day. Just never a bad game for Chien-Pao. The set is pretty standard, but it gets the job done. Next up, we'll talk about Entei. Entei is a Pokemon that was really popular at the time and a really good fire type. It was one of the few resist to Flutter Mane, and it just was such a polarizing force, kind of like Dragonite. Like, dealing with this Pokemon is really difficult, especially with the Terra, and so I think that dealing with Flutter Mane is a huge deal for any Chien-Pao Dragonite team, and I think Entei accomplishes that. It's very good into Flutter Mane, so is our Flutter Mane, so is Ogerpon, and Entei just was able to just go crazy. I think Entei was fantastic. There's not too much to say. The set is really boring. It has extreme speed for priority spam. It has Sacred Fire because it's so good. Also, I didn't miss a single Sacred Fire the whole weekend. Shout out to you, Entei. Stomping Tantrum for that ground coverage. And then Snarl was actually super huge in my top 8 set, as it allowed me to just destroy hard Trick Room. Entei's super boring, but he's super good. Inner Focus is awesome. Again, one of the big focuses when Alex built the team was that it was all about just dodging Incineroar, because Incineroar was going to be one of the most important high-impact Pokemon. So being immune to Incineroar was super important. So Entei was, again, inner focus. Dragonite's inner focus. Chien-Pao was susceptible to Intimidate, but it did have Terra Ghost. So it was just like trying to find as many fake out immunities as possible, and Entei accomplished that. Ogerpon Wellspring is super boring. There's nothing to say about this Pokemon. It presses Follow Me, and it's very good at its job. One of the big things I'd say about the Ogerpon and Entei spreads is that the Ogerpon outspeeds Entei by 1 point, which allows you to scout for speeds. Like if you're playing in an Ogerpon mirror, it's really important to know if Entei can potentially outspeed them. And Ogerpon helped accomplish that. So in game 1, you could lead Ogerpon or bring Ogerpon, figure out some speeds, and then you'd know for game 2 how good Entei was going to be. Or if Entei was in the bag, it could come in. But yeah, Ogerpon's super boring. It's so good though. It was awesome. Then next up is Raging Bolt. This Pokemon is so much fun. I love Raging Bolt so much. It literally reignited my love for this game. I just don't know why. I think, to quote Rog of Malavia, he's once said, I like pressing the yellow button, which is Thunderclap. And I gotta say, I love pressing the yellow button too. And Raging Bolt presses Thunderbolt and Thunderclap to insane levels. And he is truly the GOAT at doing that. I love Raging Bolt. He is so good. And there's not much to say. I think that the set is really good on the team. I actually opted to run Life Orb instead of Safety Goggles because I really wasn't bringing him too much into Amoonguss anyways. Like, that wasn't his point. I did opt for Terra Grass, but I liked Life Orb because I was really used to it. I used Life Orb almost exclusively on the old team, so it felt like I would be doing myself a disservice to go for Safety Goggles. I do think that the Safety Goggles Terra Water was probably better for the team, and it would have helped a lot when I played against Chien-Pao, but I was just so comfortable with Life Orb, so I just let it rip, and I was just comfortable with all the calcs. I made a lot of the plays I made with the other team, like Sucker Punch plus Thunderclap, or just like sniping Flutter Mains at like half HP. Raging Bolt is just such a sick Pokemon. I love this guy. He's so fun, and I'm really glad I got to top 4 regional with one of my new favorite Pokemon. I know, a little cringy, right? Next up is Flutter Mane. Flutter Mane is so boring, but one thing about our Flutter Mane is that it was max speed, and at the time, a lot of the Chien-Paos were adamant, and I think being max speed Flutter Mane helped out a ton. I was commonly able to check if the Chien-Pao, if I won a speed type versus a Chien-Pao, I instantly knew that my Chien-Pao was faster, and that usually would set me up for huge success in future games. So the Flutter Mane was just a speed checker for Chien-Pao, or my Chien-Pao, if it won a lot of speed ties, I would just kind of make safe guesses that potentially the other Chien-Pao was adamant. I think the speed really allowed me to shine as a player with the team because I think this team is really aggressive, and this Flutter Mane didn't disappoint. So yeah, let's get into some of the important matchups. So I gotta talk about my day 1 L, right? This team was so frustrating to deal with. Shoutouts to Dylan for running this team, but the Chien-Pao Dragonite mirror is not fun, especially when they have a Furgraph. It felt like an uphill battle the entire time. I managed to win game 1, actually. I don't really remember how, but I snuck in a secret dub there. But then games 2 and 3 got really difficult, and in game 3, Dylan whipped out the Furgraph Blood Moon mode that he didn't run in the prior 2 rounds, so Dylan was able to mop the floor with me. It kind of sucked because I started out going 1-1, which is pretty brutal. But, we powered through and were able to win 7 more. There wasn't too much going on. In most of the other rounds, I felt like I was really in control. I was constantly getting advice from Alex all day, just like running through matchups, figuring out stuff. Alex was super much the MVP, so was Audie and Chemo and Jody. They were all helping me out and just like teaching me stuff about the team because most of this team was just learning it on the fly. Obviously, I had a lot of prior knowledge with Entei, Ogerpon, Chien-Pao, and Raging Bolt, but the Flutter Mane and Dragonite really changed up the team, and they were really nice guys, and they were helping me out the entire time. Shoutouts to Tub Nation, baby! Tub Nation for life. But they helped me out a ton, and day 1 was just seriously a breeze. I do have to mention in the final round, I did play one of the worst matchups for the team, which is Archelodon Rain. But I'm going to be honest, I read my opponent every single turn. I got every single turn right. It was honestly absurd. One of the biggest things I did to win the game was, at the end of game 1, I had locked it up. I felt pretty confident, and I was like, I think Flutter Mane Excalibur is a really difficult lead. I'm not sure what I can lead into that, especially because it was Booster Flutter. So I was like, what should I do? I was just thinking about this. How do I beat this? So I decided to lead Dragonite Chien-Pao. And I was going to turn 1, protect my Chien-Pao and Air Lace Flutter Mane, and Terra my Dragonite, assuming that he would fear the extreme speed and protect his Excalibur. And my opponent did just that. I mind controlled him. I destroyed him after that turn. It was just a nutty set where I just played out of my mind. And going 8-1 is so huge going into day 2. So in day 2, I'll highlight a couple matches. My round 1 was against Dylan Salvanara, who is a local of mine. I played Dylan quite a bit. I feel very confident when I play against Dylan. And I was really nervous because Dylan was actually using the same 6 Pokemon that I was thinking of using the night before with Fluttermane. But I had opted to change to Alex's team. So I had asked Alex, I said, hey, how do I deal with this? Like, I feel like he's just going to lead Fluttermane Ogerpon. And he said, Colin, trust me, lead Fluttermane Ogerpon. I said, I want to opt into the mirror, Alex. You think I should opt into the mirror? He said, Colin, you have to trust me. I was like, all right, Alex, I trust you, man. I 4-0'd Dylan game 1 with the leads of Fluttermane Ogerpon into Fluttermane Ogerpon. I just played every turn so well. And then games 2, I just felt so confident because I was like, man, I just 4-0'd with Flutter Ogre. I feel confident here. And I just played incredibly well game 2 as well. And I was able to take the set 2-0. I think that was a pretty important match for my morale and just my confidence. Because after that, I didn't lose the next 2. And at that point, I was 11-1, which basically meant I was locked in for cut. So my next match was against the Regidrago Golden Go guy. When I was playing this match, I was kind of trying to see what my opponent can do because at this point I felt pretty locked into cut. So I didn't want to show too much information, so I led Dragonite Chien-Pao all 3 games. And I kind of got a vibes, and I think learning how that matchup played out was really important because I was able to help my good friend Alex, who helped me. I was able to help Alex and kind of discuss what I thought my opponent would do if he had to play him again. And luckily, Alex did end up playing him in top 4 and completely went crazy. Alex destroyed him, and I was so happy that my knowledge was able to help Alex out. After that, I was on stream, which was pretty cool. Now, as a person, I have a pretty big pride. I don't like losing to Hard Trick Room. I was a Hard Trick Room player back in 2012 as a kid. I only played Hard Trick Room for almost 2 years, and then I learned that Hard Trick Room sucks, and I could probably be better if I just learned other teams, and then a year later I got 3rd at Worlds. So the moral of the story is don't play Hard Trick Room. Avoid it like the plague. I think it's garbage. But my opponent, of course, did not think that. My opponent actually had a really good run. I gotta say. Yeah, they had an amazing run using Hard Trick Room, and they were playing me on stream in the final round for the win in it. And game 1 went about as I expected. I did not expect the Terabas play, but it was a really amazing play that basically kind of knocked me out of the game. Game 2, I played pretty well. And then game 3, there was an unfortunate crit. But alas, all was saved because I was guaranteed cut. And I was so excited because I had top 8'd a regional in a modern era, which felt really amazing. And I knew I had a chance to win a medal. Now, I've wanted a medal ever since I saw these damn things. I wanted one so bad. I have a ton of the regular old brick trophies, as they're called. But I wanted a medal because it was different. It was cool. So my goal was to get that top 4. I needed to get top 4. And I need that physical manifestation of my success, and I was not going to stop until I got it. I run over to the pairings all excited, and then my heart sinks because I see that I'm playing once again against the guy who just bodied me on stream. Now, I didn't have time to feel sorry for myself. I texted my mom, and I said, I'm playing the same guy, and she replied with, fuck. And that's about how I felt. So I talked to Alex, but Alex was stressing out because my boy Alex had made top 8 as well. So he had to figure out his matchup, so I was kind of left on my own. And I was thinking, I actually walked to the bathroom. Took a pee, and I found Jody there. I was like, hey, Jody, what do you think I should do? And he said, yo, dude, just lead Entei. I was like, huh, okay. So then I walked back over to Raghav, and we start talking it up, and he's like, dude, Entei. And I was like, why didn't I bring Entei? So my opponent, game 1, just led Hatterene and Didi, and I just spammed Snarl, and I just never gave them a chance to win the game, and I played that game extremely well. And then I was like, okay, they led Hatterene and Didi. That feels good. No Urshifu shenanigans. I feel good. And then I sat there and I said, okay, here's the deal. I have to win game 2. Because if I lose game 2, I'm going to freak out, and I might lead poorly into Urshifu. I might just cost myself the game, so I have to win this game too. My opponent leads Hatterene and Didi, and with that, I knew I could take it. I just needed to play as cleanly as possible. I spammed Snarl, I terrored my Ogerpon correctly, and I closed the game out with 3 outrages in a row from Dragonite. It was awesome because Chien-Pao was killing the thing that wasn't the thing that needed to be outraged, so Dragonite was just hitting guaranteed outrages over and over and over. And it was just an awesome victory. I popped off. I jump out of my chair, run over to my friends, hugging them because I had finally achieved my medal. So I had to play against none other than Chup across the 4th. Now, playing against Chup is a nightmare. Chup is an incredible player. One of the best in America. Like, low-key, sometimes I think he is the best. Right now, Chup is just a beast at this game. So playing against Chup was going to be an uphill battle. And going into it, I was nervous because I had played Chuppa prior, but I had kind of revealed my hand. I played really hard against Chuppa, and I mean, Chuppa obviously tried really hard against me as well because Chuppa wanted that win, but I felt like I got everything right, so it felt like an easier set than it probably would be if Chien-Pao has prep time and we're about to play against each other. So I sit down versus Chien-Pao, and game 1, he flat out destroys me. It was a really unfortunate game, and I was really upset with my play. I still am. Like, honestly, that was my biggest regret, is how I played that game 1. I literally sat up in my chair, I scooched forward, and I said, we're not going to lose like this. We got to try hard. So after that, I went Super Saiyan. I literally just turned on, and I started playing insanely well. I think between game 1 and 2, there's just a complete shift in my demeanor, and I just played incredibly well. It still came down to the wire. Chien-Pao's an amazing player, but I really made him work for it, and I was able to take game 2. It was a hard-fought battle. I even lost a speed tie in there that if I won the speed tie, it was guaranteed, and it was just incredible. So going into game 3, I'm nervous. I'm scared, but I was still confident in my play. And Chien-Pao leads with Chien-Pao, and now I know that my Flutter main is speed time with this Chien-Pao because he's adamant Chien-Pao. I've learned that from the 5 other games I've played versus Chien-Pao, or 4 other games at this point. We're on game number 5 of our set against each other, right? And I was like, okay, I know how fast his Chien-Pao is. And I was like, well, this turn 1 is really nasty if I win the speed tie or if I live the hit. The hit is actually a 37% chance to go, right? So the odds are in my favor because if I win the speed tie, I'm chilling. If I also, that's like a hard win. But also, if I lose the speed tie and still live, I still have like about a 70% chance to live. So I was like, or 60% chance. And I was like, well, we gotta roll the dice sometimes. This is Pokemon, bro. We're not playing Melee or Tekken. We're playing Pokemon, and there's some luck in this game. So I locked in. I click my Dazzling Gleam, and unfortunately, Chien-Pao moves first and grabs that KO. He gets the high roll. He gets the KO. And I still played my best. I made it as close as I could, but Chien-Pao made an insane play by switching in Tatsugiri that basically just cost me the game. Well, not cost me the game. Chien-Pao won the game with his stellar play, and I was defeated by Chien-Pao. I'm not too mad about it. I think Chien-Pao's a good friend of mine, and Chien-Pao played incredibly well. So it was sick to play Chien-Pao at such a high level because I just haven't gotten that in a while. So it felt really good. Unfortunately, losing to Chien-Pao meant I was out of the tournament, but I was walking away with $2,000 and, of course, the shiny medal for my new favorite Pokemon, Raging Bull. I was really happy with the success of the tournament. It was really awesome as well because Alex, the creator of the team, got to win the regional. Alex had put so much work. He's been working so hard for this, so it was so awesome to see my boy Alex win, and it felt really good to rep Alex's team and get it another medal. We got 2 medals with this team. We were half of the top 4 together. So I was really proud of my finish. And I was really proud of Alex, and I was able to, help Alex out a little bit. He watched my set versus Chien-Pao, so he knew what to do. And I just looked at him and I said, Alex, get a ball out here. You got to go crazy. And Alex did just that, winning the regional and winning the hearts of millions. So I got to say this was an amazing regional. I'm really proud of my performance. I didn't expect it. I was stressed about Worlds. I literally just didn't think I had it in me anymore. And I was able to prove myself wrong. And I couldn't be more happy. Thank you guys for watching this video. That's really all I got. That's the story of how I top 4'd a regional, but it was a fun regional. Rental code's on the screen, I guess, if you really want to use it. It's a little dated, but I still wanted to tell the story. So let me know what you guys thought of the video. I'll see you guys next time for another video. I hope you enjoyed it. Tell me if you want more like these. I think it's fun, a little war story to talk about, but thank you guys so much. Have a good night.